The neighborhood looked flawless from the outside: manicured lawns, matching fences, freshly painted mailboxes. Every driveway was spotless, every tree perfectly trimmed. It looked like something out of a real estate commercial: peaceful, beautiful, and calm. But the beauty was deceptive. Underneath that perfection, tension was growing like a weed between the cracks of control and individuality. Michael, a quiet software engineer who had just bought his first home, never imagined that something as small as a color choice could start a war. He loved his house, the warmth of it, the sense of belonging. One weekend, he decided to give it a personal touch. He painted the front door a deep royal blue, elegant, calming, and meaningful to him. That color reminded him of the ocean where he proposed to his wife. It wasn't just paint. It was a memory, but the HOA saw it differently. Within 48 hours, he received a letter. Violation. Unauthorized door color. It ordered him to repaint it in accordance with community guidelines. Michael thought it was a joke. He had seen homes in other neighborhoods with all sorts of colors. But when the fines started arriving, first $50, then $100, he realized this was no joke. It was the beginning of a battle. The blue door became a neighborhood scandal. Some neighbors whispered support. Others looked away, afraid to get involved. The HOA president, Mrs. Dawson, was known for her strict interpretation of the rulebook. She believed that the beauty of the neighborhood depended on uniformity, that freedom created chaos. Michael thought otherwise. He believed real beauty came from personality and creativity. He decided to confront the board at the next meeting. The room smelled of coffee and paperwork. 5 board members sat behind a long table, expressionless, ready to defend the rules. Michael spoke calmly, explaining that color was not rebellion, it was self-expression. "I'm not hurting anyone. My house is clean, my yard is neat. Why is a color such a problem?" he asked. But Mrs. Dawson responded sharply, "If we allow this, everyone will do whatever they want. This is not about one door. It's about order." The word order echoed in Michael's mind for days. Wasn't freedom also a kind of order? The order that comes from people taking pride in their own homes, not fear of punishment? Yet as he looked around, he saw how fear had quietly taken over his neighborhood. Neighbors trimmed their hedges twice a week just to avoid warnings. A man down the street was fined for leaving his trash can out an hour too long. Another woman got cited for hanging laundry on her porch. It wasn't a community anymore. It was a controlled experiment in perfection. One morning, Michael caught an HOA inspector photographing his property. "Routine documentation," the man said. Michael felt his privacy vanish. His own home, the one he worked so hard for, now felt like a monitored zone. That night, as he sat on his porch under the soft glow of his blue door, he realized how absurd it had become. A color was being treated like a crime. Then something unexpected happened. Michael's story reached social media. A local reporter covered it with the headline, "The Blue Door That Challenged the HOA." Within days, people from around the country were talking about it. Some called it brave, others called it petty. But what mattered was that people were finally questioning the power HOAs held over homeowners. Soon, others began to speak up. A woman in Texas who had been fined for growing sunflowers shared her story. A man in Florida who was forced to remove his American flag wrote to Michael, thanking him for standing up. It was no longer just about one blue door. It was about homeowners reclaiming their right to individuality. The HOA didn't like the attention. They called an emergency meeting. Mrs. Dawson accused Michael of bringing negative publicity. He simply replied, "All I did was paint a door." The room fell silent. Everyone knew he was right, but few dared to say it. The board threatened legal action, even hinted at foreclosure. But this time, Michael wasn't alone. The community was watching. A group of residents formed an alliance, the Freedom Homeowners. They collected signatures demanding rule reform. Within weeks, half the neighborhood had joined. The HOA board, once powerful, began to lose control. Meetings grew tense. People wanted their voices heard, not silenced by fine letters. The turning point came when a retired veteran named Mr. Hernandez stood up at a meeting. His voice trembled, but his words hit hard. "I fought for this country's freedom. I'll be damned if I can't paint my front door whatever color I want." The room erupted in applause. For the first time, the board looked nervous. Power was shifting. By spring, the HOA had no choice. They revised the guidelines, allowing personalized exterior colors subject to community consensus. It wasn't perfect freedom, but it was progress. Michael kept his blue door, a symbol of resistance and hope. He didn't just win his case, he changed the neighborhood. A few months later, walking down the same street felt different. Houses that once looked identical now showed character, a green door, a red bench, a colorful garden. It was still beautiful, but now it was human. People smiled more, talked more, helped each other more. Perfection had been replaced with personality, and the community finally felt like home. Michael's story spread across the country. News channels called it the Blue Door Movement. Thousands of homeowners started rethinking what it meant to live under an HOA. The message was clear. Rules are fine, but control without compassion destroys community spirit. HOAs were originally created to maintain harmony, not to eliminate individuality. Somewhere along the way, many forgot that. The goal of a neighborhood isn't to look perfect on the outside, but to feel peaceful on the inside. When rules value paint over people, they fail their true purpose. As Michael stood outside his home one evening, the blue door glowing in the sunset, he realized the fight had been worth it. He wasn't just defending color, he was defending choice. A home, after all, is not a display. It's a reflection of the people who live inside it. That night, his wife joined him, smiling as neighbors walked by. Children rode their bikes, laughter filled the air, and for the first time in years, the street felt alive again. Beauty was no longer forced. It was natural, diverse, and real. Michael took a deep breath and whispered, "This is what home is supposed to feel like." Because in the end, the real harmony of a neighborhood doesn't come from rules or restrictions. It comes from respect. And no amount of beige paint can replace that.